Welcome to InnovatiCS. This is Data Science for Good. This will be a 1 hour roughly session on Python. It is our first session on a programming language in this Data Science for Good. So I'll try not to move too fast, but we'll have 4 sessions, 4 1-hour sessions on how to use a programming language to help you do data science, machine learning. It's impossible to do it in 4 days, but we'll see a little bit of it. 4 hours, I should say. So, can everyone hear me and see my screen? Well, I better share a screen, sorry.
Yes, we can see you, we can hear you.
Oh, but you can't see my screen, sorry. I didn't share my screen yet. I am the host. I can do that. I'm trying to figure out how to turn the recording on. So, sharing screen, I meant. Sharing screen, sharing screen. Share screen, share screen. Here it is. Too many virtual environment things. So can folks see my screen now, other than just my crazy face?
Yeah, we can see you.
Great. So this will be Python. Please ask questions. I'm trying to think. It's always nice to gauge the audience about what level they're at and whatever you're speaking at. So is there, just speak up. Don't feel bad. No one sees everything. But is there anyone brand new to programming? Like they don't know how to program any language. I mean, computer programming language. Is there anybody who has no experience with any programming language? So when I say variable, okay, folks, silence is you know how to program. Is there anybody, you just say yes, don't say, is there anybody at a beginner level program versus intermediate?
Yes, I'm not a programmer, but I like because working with the programmers, I've some know-how about programming languages. Other than that, maybe a little bit of HTML and this.
You're good.
Things.
So we're not here to talk about HTML, so we won't talk about it. So, it's nice to have an appreciation for it. So when we talk about it, you won't be starting from scratch. So we don't have to start at like real simple stuff. What is a variable? In all programming languages, it's the same. It's just now we're here for specifically Python. So Python is a general purpose language. So it's everywhere. It's pervasive. It's everywhere. Other languages will be for embedded systems like Java, or HTML, or CSS, or JavaScript. Very web. You only see that stuff when it has something to do with the web. Web pages, moving web pages, that kind of stuff. But Python is not targeted to any specific thing. So it's very general. So if you want to learn a language, Python is easy to learn, but it's also in all different fields, just not in one. So it's like it's everywhere. It's a better way. It's not just learning something only for embedded systems or only for the web. So, and Python's used for those too. So let's get into it. We're learning Python. This environment is Jupyter Notebook. It's great for teaching and learning, and playing around. So not necessarily, I don't mean playing around. I mean like experimenting, trying things out. And that's what data scientists do a lot. So There will be religious wars about what development environment you use, but when it comes to data science, they're not like super programmers. They might be, but you're not there to become a super programmer, and you need those folks elsewhere. You can be a super programmer in data science, and you want to be, but you don't have to be. So you want an environment to let you play, and it's 95% playing with data. Okay, that's why it's called data science. But let's just first learn how to play with normal, boring Python. So this is Jupyter Notebook, or it's actually Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter. And the great thing about Jupyter Notebook, other than allowing you to have fun and play, it also is browser-based. So this is a browser. And what that means is you can easily get Jupyter Notebook running on almost anything. You can get this environment in GitHub working. No, you don't have to do any work. You just put your files out there, and you will get this equivalent. All kind of cloud-based services where you put your files. If it looks like a Jupyter Notebook file, it will allow you to get to this. So if you go to Google Drive and have the right files there, you can edit the file right there in the cloud. What that means is you can have a pretty much underpowered computer or even a dumb computer and do all the heavy work out there. So that's all the overhead I want to say right now. So I'm going to say right here, create a new file. Oh, this is Jupyter Notebook. So we won't talk about this after about 5 minutes. I'm going to say new. Oh, I got to move this. This thing's there. It's better now. And
can
yes.
you enlarge the screen?
Yes. Yeah, this is just my home directory. So leave that alone. When I get to real code, I'll enlarge it. Okay. Oh, but most of the time when you enlarge, it doesn't enlarge menus. It only enlarges the text. Okay, so that's 110, I think. This is 125-ish. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do a new right here in the top right. And the other cool thing about Jupyter Notebook is you can, avoiding the words, you can download kernels to have it learn about 55 languages by now. So right now, I only have it knowing about Python. Oh, you can use this as an editor too, but it's really not that great. It's really meant for programming. So you can add other languages. I only have Python 3 right now. Almost any language. So I'll do Python 3. And it'll open up a blank file because Python is text-based. That being said, it will come out with a white screen or whatever color you like. If you like the dark screen, so you can set all the styles too. So it's thinking. Right. I don't know why it's taking 3 days for that to start. There's nothing running, or nothing substantial running. It is my home page, right? Nothing wild there. So I'm just going to stop this. Yeah, that was it. This is some project I'm working on. Oh, finally. And I'll say new. Give me Python template. So when you get when you program, you really want some kind of thing to help you as much as possible. So if you use it, what's called an integrated development environment, that provides you a lot of knowledge about, in this case, a programming language. So if we said it's Python and we start typing Python stuff, it will start coloring it. It'll start suggesting hints and things like that. So it'll help you. So what you want to do is, if you don't want to use Notepad or TextEdit or whatever, that's no help at all. I mean, you just type in text. It will work, but you have to know everything, and you can't ask for help. You can't say, give me some help about this feature, or even have it proactively suggest things. So folks, I'm going to close out everything here. So here I go. There's too many menus overlapping down here, which you probably can't see. Okay, that you can see. No more. Oh, there's some there. So this is me starting from nothingness, in a sense of, in this case, Jupyter. So what you have to do is I'm running it local. So you talk to your command line. Now that could be a PowerShell. So if someone suggests that they know something about PowerShell, great. But you know, you're writing commands. You're writing text commands at the command line prompt. The equivalent on Mac OS is terminal. So I'm just going to run terminal. And you get this, and you're just talking right to the. By default, it's going to place you in the home directory. That's important if you don't know how to program, or you always wonder where your files go. Most of these shells start at the start at the home directory. So I'm just going to start Jupyter Notebook, or Jupyter Notebook. Now Jupyter is a set of tools. So you say Jupyter, and it's like, okay, which of the 15 things that I can provide for you do you want? And I'll say, hey, I want the notebook. Okay? And I'll run this. I'm just going to start a little process on your machine. So this is running local, and it will be listening for stuff from your web browser to talk to it. So it's running a server on your machine to listen specifically for stuff coming from your browser that's Jupyter Notebook specific. I tried to be generic. I didn't want to give you too much details, I should say. Now, depending on your environment, it automatically start up a blank browser already in Jupyter Notebook, but it may not. So you're saying, hey, my machine, local. You can give it numbers or talk to it with this name. It's a name that networking people. It's a local host. It's me right here. It's like I'm talking to anything listening on my machine. And now it finally launched. There's something really slow on my machine. I don't want to reboot. Oh, it's still learning. So it's still reading. It's still reading. Oh, it's getting better. Finally. There's something really painfully slow in this machine. Yeah, bad time. And nothing's running. I mean, that's going to suck the time. Well, while this is getting ready, I'll just start with the text editor. And we'll paste all these things in when the thing actually gets fired up, hopefully. I'll make the font big. Well, we'll see how 18 goes. Okay, maybe a little bigger. Okay, that'll work. So for Python, variables. So we'll just, and the problem with programming is you should name your variables appropriately. So we'll just call it generically number equals 6. Okay. Great. The important thing about Python is this is good. But what is number? Well, it's a number 6, that's true. But there's kind of like two things when you name variables in most programming languages, and it's the actual what is the value of it. And this appears to be an integer. Python will go through the additional troubles. You don't have to tell me what data type. So you have to know the value, and you have to know the data type. So you can just as well have this. Oh, good. It's up there in the back. It's up there. But let's just talk about this right here, and we'll paste it in. If I say number equals 3.14, oh, my 3 key's dead. Okay, 3.14. You say, yeah, that still looks like a number, and you weren't lying to it. So you don't lie to Python. You lie to people who read the code. So just because you call it number, it could be. You say, hey, can you tell me a number? What are you? And it says, Steve. No, it's actually the name, string, Steve. It's like, no, it's not exactly a number. So the variable names can be almost anything. Okay? So right now, we're not like trying to lie. So you name the variable what it is. Okay? If it's a matrix, you call it a matrix. If it's a list, you kind of call it a list, that kind of stuff. So I just mentioned a few things. Don't worry about it. We'll definitely get it within the next, probably tomorrow or before the end of tomorrow. So this is yet another number. But you can also have this. Now, when you name variables in Python, in all languages, there's some conventions. Not enforced, but they're strong suggestions. So if you follow the strong suggestions, it's really easy for people to follow the code, including you, like 6 months later when you read your own code. If you follow sort of those strong suggestions, it makes your life a lot easier in the sense that you only have to focus on the problem. You don't have to focus on some weird way people name variables or the weird way they coded. And then you spend a lot of time on those distractions, not on, the real problem. So I could say this, number equals Steve. Okay? Now Steve, now people put things in quotes. That's goes by many names. Most people say that's a string. Some people will go through the additional trouble of saying it's a literal or a literal string. String goes, everyone just says it's a string. But it's like, I named a variable number. That's really messing people's heads up psychologically. So you shouldn't call it that. You might want to call it name. Now, is name a good variable name? Okay. Great. So we're just getting into how to behave, not how to behave, how to follow strong suggestions in programming languages. So follow the suggestions or high recommendations that people program in whatever language you are. This is Python. So what if I want a name that's like a first name and then I have a surname? Okay, we'll just go first and last. It's like, I can't say name. Don't call it name 1, name 2. It's like, what's that mean? Oh, I'm going to call it first name. I'm going to say a few things about this line. The variable is first name. You don't want variable names like one letter. And you don't want variable names that are like, 80 characters long. It's a little too much. So Python says, sure, this is great. We could do anything you want. But the strong suggestion is when you have a variable like this, first name, you say a word, a single underscore, the other word. And what if it keeps going? Well, you separate the words by one single underscore. So underscores are important in Python, but they're only, well, almost always, they're not enforced, but they're real strong suggestions. So when you put the underscore in front of it, it's a lot easier to read. Real easy. They say, well, who cares? When they get really big in data science, no one names it like silly names like this. They're really long, and it's really nice to separate. Not really long, but I don't feel like figuring out where the words split and go, and where the next word is. So be real nice. I'm stressing sort of strong suggestions to make your code readable, but also when you look at other people's code, you're going to be using other people's code, and you're going to say, "This is really hard to read," and you'll learn from badly written code and it's like, quote, it works, but it's really hard to look at and absorb. So let's keep talking about this. Wait, Python does not distinguish between single quotes and double quotes, but they have to match. So in the case of this string called Steve up here, I put single quotes. No, it doesn't matter. Double quotes, doesn't matter. So there is no such thing as a single character in Python, unlike other languages. Even if it's one character, or Steve is 5 characters, John is 4. But what if I have, my middle initial, M? It's still a string, even though it's one character. So that's the Python thing. So let's get on with it. I'm going to paste these things in so we could get right into real Python. Okay? I just did that to figure out the size of the font. Is this about right, or is that too big or too small, folks? The size of the font.
Looks fine.
Okay, because too big is annoying, and like yeah, it's definitely too small is annoying too. But the happy medium is great. Now I'm going to just edit fast, so I'm not going to show you the editing shortcut keys. But if I say number equals 6, and it says it didn't do anything. It actually did. It created space in memory, and it put the number, in this case, integer 6 there. And then it went through the trouble of giving that box in memory that has the value 6 in it a name. And it's called number. Great. It's out, well, not out there. It's in memory. So can you ask for it? Well, when you ask for a variable, you're really, just like in math, you do not say X. What's X? The answer is not, it's a letter. What they mean is, what's the value of X? Same in programming. So when you say the variable name, you mean what's the value of the variable. And you can just say, oh, I'm sorry, this is Python. So you can just say the variable name, and you say, well, this is just an integer. Yeah, it'll get harder. Or you can do a print of it. And we're not doing any fancy printing, like formatting or anything yet. And you say, it's the same. Ever so slightly different. They're slightly different. But for now, leave it alone. You say, great, Ed, but what about this? What's its data type? So I'm trying to stress that Python is what's called dynamically data typed. So Python will assign a data type of whatever it thinks it is. And the better part about it is you can convert from one to the other real fast. So you could change from one data type to the other if it makes sense. Not everything makes sense, you know. So, any questions so far? So Python is an interpreted language, meaning I never had to compile anything. So people who know about scripting languages, that's what scripting languages means. Scripting languages, you do not have to go through any process of compiling and things like that. You basically run the code, run the script, and the script is interpreted. Okay? So this environment is running one of these rectangular regions at a time. Okay, and yeah, they're called cells. But in environments, other programming environments, you'll run like all of it all at once. And then you have to deal with other issues. But this is a programming environment. I'm sorry, this is a learning environment. So it only runs one cell at a time. But could I run a few of these at a time? Like, are each of these rectangular regions only one line long? Well, you don't have to. I could say this, print number. Being as it's a number, we could do math on it, and we'll do simple math. And yeah, it's an integer, so we can follow along pretty much. It's not that bad. I won't be doing a square root of 6 because that hurts. Times 2. Great. So you can put multiple lines in a program. A single line program is basically, you'll never find them. Okay? So what's nice is you can do this really quick. But could I have done the same thing like this? I'll say number equals 3.14. Okay? And I'm going to copy and paste this stuff below it. Wait, I thought number was 6. No, you blew it away by doing this. You're saying, I know it was whatever it was, but it's like I am taking control of the number variable and I'm putting 3.14 in it. And it's like, yeah, after that, I'm going to print it out and print the number times 2. So please ask questions if you have any. First underscore name, because that's the convention with the name of the variable, name of the words separated by one single underscore. I'm stressing that single underscore thing because Python likes underscores. Sometimes they're single, sometimes they're double, sometimes they're in their front, sometimes they're in their back, sometimes they're in you know. So here we go. First name is Steve. Last name equal. So this is the quick version of learning Python in the sense of learning about variables and data types. So not a lot of theory, I guess. Oh, okay, I'll go after Stevie Wonder, you know, the musician. Right. Oh, geez, is that how you spell his name? I'm going to assume that's how you spell his name. Stevie Wonder. I run it and it says, great, it didn't do anything. No, it actually made space for that text string, and it assigned it the variable name first name and saying, what can I do with this? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll print the name out. And it'll say, sorry about that. It'll say, oh, name is not defined. That's right. We never mentioned the variable called name. And this will happen, and most of the time you misspell it. You forget a letter, or you hit fat fingers, you switch. So I wanted to introduce when you have an error or error. It's called a trace back. Don't worry about it. Most of the time you can just read the last line. Okay? And that'll definitely tell you. And it'll try to, I know this is boring, it's a one-line quote program, but it says that the error is on line 1. It will tell you the line number. Okay? So sometimes the thing with the arrow helps you know what line. So if you give it 20 lines and it's like something's wrong with that, it's like it will tell you the line number and roughly what's going on. So name is not defined. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, what are we going to do? What can you do with strings? And we have first name, last name. Well, so there's all kind of operations you can do in all programming languages. Now, most of us just think, mathematical. Okay? Yeah, a number plus a number is, the sum. And you can also do number plus number plus number plus number, and that'll be the sum of all, 4 of those numbers. So you could chain it all along. Well, these operators, what kind of things can string do? Well, you might want to ask for the length of it. The length can be important. Can I add 2 strings? Let's try. So we'll say name equal first name. Well, wait. Does it know what a first name is? Yes. Okay. I'm going to add the last name. And guess what? I want to beat you to the punchline. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me add a line, and I'll just say, hey, tell me what it is. Tell me the value of it. It's like, anybody see a problem with that? With this?
Yeah,
right?
it did up with the space.
Right, that'll be classic. But did it technically do a plus of strings? So you say, what would a plus operator, meaning add, do if you gave it 2 strings? Oh, it might concatenate. And that's what it did. So this is called, hate to say this, operator overloading. So a plus does what the plus means looking at the data types. So if you see a plus with numbers, it does the math number addition thing. If it's strings, it's going to do concatenate. So what you probably meant was this. And there's really cool ways to do this. And you'll say, hey, I want to put a space between them. I say, yeah, that's it. And now, I just did this for demo purposes. But, so you have number data types. And then you have things that look like, number meaning an integer or a float. My thumb is going away. An integer or a float. And there's also complex numbers, natively supported by Python. So if you're an engineer, electrical engineer, complex number support is great. Or physics, it's an answer. You don't have to call weird libraries. You could just say complex number plus complex number, and it does the complex number arithmetic on those 2 separate numbers. You can do all kinds of things with complex numbers, natively supported by Python. So you saw what is a string. So if I say, hey, by the way, what's the data type of that thing called name? It says it's a string. Oh, integer is int. Float, meaning what looks like real numbers in math, meaning things that have a decimal point in it, are called float. Strings are called stree. And string is a bunch of letters. So these are called collections. So can you do a lot of things on collections? Yeah, I can ask for the length of them. Okay, it's 13 letters. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But it's a collection. You're going to see a bunch of collections. Just having a single entity like an integer or one float or one of anything is very boring. It's not going to happen in real life. You're going to get collections of them. Okay? So this is a string is a collection of characters. So what can you do with collections? Well, we'll just talk the name. Okay? Any collection, you put square brackets. Okay? And what it's waiting for is you could give it an index. Now look at the name. It's a capital S. Luckily, there's only one capital S. It's at position 0. So wait, position 0? Yeah, I asked for the 0th character of that string. So the next thing you learned is when you deal with collections, they're 0-based. Python is 0-based, which means if you have a string of 5 of anything, it'll go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 0-based. Okay? So if I'm doing copy and pasting, okay? So programmers will do that a lot. I'm going to look at the first character. Now, it's not saying the first character. It's the strings element that occurs at index 1, and that better be capital T. I'm sorry, little t. And there's only one little t, so you know where it's coming from. Right there. So I'll stop there. So this is an index. An index, when most people say index, they usually mean an integer. Now Python comes along and says, you know, I'll just say it this way. I'll just talk to Steve. Say it's Steve. Oh, Steve was name, right? Name is, it's Steve V. Steve V. This is important. Now, what you learn here with collections is they can be anything. Now, collections are really weird. Just think about a collection in real life. You can have order, and there's some collections, like your collection of pencils, you just throw them in a drawer. There's no real order. Whereas certain things have order. And collections are not ordered. Specifically, a string has order. So they're called sequences. Sequence. Yes, they come in sequence. The sequence, the order is preserved. So you'll hear strings called sometimes sequences. And here they are. Hope I got it right. Oh, I don't know why I'm having spaces. And this is just comments. So how do you make a comment? And a line comment is you preface it with the pound character. So what's nice about integrated development environments, it will color code things for you. So comments are this color green in this environment, okay? So if I say the length of name, anybody want to guess what it is? And name is Stevie. What's the length of name? Does anyone know? Well, I can see it's going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is it 5 or is it 6? Is the big question. So it is 6.
It should be 6.
Oh, not name. First name. My bad. And you'll do that a lot. So please name your variables appropriately. Then you'll say, oh yeah, I didn't mean name. I meant the other thing. So it is 6. So it's 0 base, so it's 0 to 5. There it is. There's the length of it. But the really cool thing in Python is you also can have negative indexes. You can have negative indexes. Yes. So this is all programming languages do that, but Python will make your life easy by also supporting negative indexes. So this is the backwards version. So I hope I got it right. No, I need one more, right? I need one more. So this is the negative version. So if you go from the right to the left. So if I say first name, I want the last character. Now, in other programming languages, you have to go through a lot of trouble to get this. I'm going to just say -1. Remember, when you're counting backwards, this is -1, this is -2, whatever. And so if I want the last character, I got it. Unfortunately, there's too many E's. But that is the last E. But what if I do this? To the second character from the back. That better be I, a little I, lowercase I. Remember, it also is case sensitive. So as we go, we'll learn more things about Python. It is case sensitive everywhere. So it is an I. So we can go backwards. Index going backwards. So an index is a integer. Python says, oh, we'll give you -1s too. Really important sometimes. And you can capitalize on that fact to reverse strings and all that. Real easy. Like, don't have to do anything. So, and that's indexing. And I'm stressing this because this is really important. Remember, when you have a bunch of things, some people call it a collection. No order. If you call it a sequence, that means there is a bunch of them, but the order is preserved. So a string, the order is preserved. It's important. I said Stevie. I want it to be Stevie. I don't want you to rearrange the letters. I want you to keep the order. So it's called a sequence. There's a few things that keep order. So there's a few things that are collections. There's a few things that are sequences. I just want to emphasize character strings because they're kind of easy to relate to. They're a sequence of characters. Great. I'm talking to one letter. I'm sorry, by using an index. And I'm just asking for it. Well, let's use it to assign things. So you're saying, what's that position? We'll do positive numbers. I don't want to talk about negatives because for newcomers, it's tough. So we'll do positive numbers. So I want to change. So I'll just say first name. And then it's what you do a lot. Saying, hey, I forget what first name is. Just tell me. Oh, it's Stevie. Great, great. I want to change this E. I'm thinking vowels in my head, okay? I want to change that position, that E. Now, changing the little e to a little e is kind of pointless. You won't see anything happen, even though it's happening. So I'm going to change it to an O. I want to change that E that I've highlighted to an O. And the reason I want this is because we were just saying, give me that position. So, oh, no. I'm going to do it better. I'm going to change this T because it's the only T. If I'm talking to the E, you know, you think, which E is it? You might not. But there's only one T in there. Okay? So we want to talk to what position. So this is me just playing and learning. I want to talk to what position. I'm going to write over that position. So I was like, I want to find out if I know what it is. So that is position 1. Great. Okay. We know it's at the first index of 1. Okay. And I'm going to just keep, okay, sorry about that. Great. And this is just reading it. But can you also put it on, you know, the left-hand side of an assignment? Oh, by the way, this is an assignment operator. You can take 2 days just talking about all the infinite amount of operators you have. And they all make sense. But we're just starting. So you say, first name equal. Okay, what do I want it to be? Okay, well, don't make it T. I'll make it capital T. I have no idea why. Okay? And then when I'm done, I'll print out the whole name again. Oh, the whole first name again. Oh, sorry about that. I have something set up that prevents me from doing this. So leave this one alone right now. Is that first name someone? Yeah. So what it's saying is, the Python says, you know that first name thing looks like a string. So it says, yeah, you know that thing, it's a string. I don't allow you to assign stuff into it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put a whatever is here now on the first position of that variable called first name. I want you to put a T, a capital T, and it says no. So let's move on to other things. So here is, I'm going to try to keep aware of time. I'm going to talk about one of the most popular data types is a list. Now, you see it's green, as opposed to me down here saying, address. Why is it black? Because it's not anything special to Python. List is just like me saying int. You probably don't want to have a variable name called int. You probably don't want a variable name called float. You see, right? So please don't do this. There are reserved words. You can actually do it when Python lets you. It's a super advanced topic. If you do it, you have to have some insane reason to do it. So let's talk about the other data type that is a sequence of things. And I'll just call it animals. And you say these square brackets, and that means it's a list. Okay, so just to convince me of it, what's the type of animals? The data type of animals. See, that's helping me too much. So you say list. It's a list. It's like, I'm not surprised. It's like, yeah, but what's its length? Wait. Same as what you did with a string. So you can ask for the length of something. Yeah, you can't ask for the length of an integer. It's like the length of an integer. Just think about it. The length of an integer. That's like not even a, it's not even a good question. So let me find the length of it. And we'll stop after this. Oh, I got to say run. And it says 0. Yeah, that's called an empty list. Can a character string be empty? Sure. You say quote, quote. So sequences are ridiculously important. So let's do a real animal example other than an empty one. That's kind of crazy. Animals equal. And if it's called animals, by the way, be very careful about plurals and singulars. So if you say animal, it's one of them. And hopefully it's an animal. If you say animals, it's probably a sequence of individual animal. So you'll see this term a lot. Please pay attention to the lower casing, but if something's singular or plural. If you see something that looks plural, it's a bunch of them. In this case, it's a bunch of animals. Animal. It's a bunch of animal. So we'll say Python. Oh, we'll just have a bunch of strings. I don't want to be crazy right now. And we'll finish with this for now. Zebra. Kangaroo. We'll visit all the continents. Kangaroo. Sorry about that. Kangaroo. Anybody have another favorite? Oh, India. Mongoose. Or I don't want to be another snake, so I'll be a mongoose. Those little vicious weasel-like things that hunt down snakes. Yeah. Okay, great. And we'll say animals, just to see, hey, is it what I think it is? It's always nice to say, I did something, is it what it is? Oh, it looks like it is what it is, kind of thing. I hate to say that. And can you say things like this? Just like a string up there. You can say, hey, animals sub. Oh, by the way, you say this thing like you say sub, meaning sub means subscript. So you'll hear, if you hear subscript error or it's something subscriptable or not subscriptable, that's what they mean. So people read this as animal sub-0, that meaning I want the 0th element. So it does count just like what we did with string. This is the 0th element of the list. This is the first, well, with the index. This is the first element. I'm sorry, the element with the index 1. This is the element with the index 2. This is the element with the index 3. So if we say animal sub-0, it's going to come back with Python. Then animals 0, 1, 2. I'll go for kangaroo. 0, 1, 2. It's kangaroo, we hope. Oh, now here's what you'll do. You'll mess up. In most programming languages, there's a big distinction between these grouping operators. Like in math, they're called grouping operators. Parentheses are treated the same as the square brackets. Okay, remember, these are square brackets. These are parentheses. And then you got those other things, curly braces. In math, they're treated alike. They're called grouping operators. The only grouping operator in programming languages is parentheses. Because square brackets mean something. You've seen them. Here's square brackets mean something. Well, parentheses mean things, different things, and curly braces mean different things. So if you accidentally type things wrong, especially if you steal it from somebody and you can't see it too small, and you'll mess up parentheses and braces and square brackets a lot. So I'll just say this, and it'll say, wait. It'll say the list object. What list object? Wait, it knows animals is a list. So it says, I see something that's a list. You don't call a list. What do you call? You call functions. Not today. What do you mean you call functions? Like square root. You call it. You call functions. So think of a calculator. I know it's mathematical, but there's all kind of functions. And like you saw one. You saw len. Len is a function. Most things listen to len. If I do the length of an integer, it's going to say, you're crazy. You can't do the length of an integer. That's crazy. Okay? So let's do it right. Animals 2 is kangaroo. Yes. And I'm going to say, I don't like kangaroo anymore. Anybody have another animal? And don't pick python, zebra, mongoose, because that way it'll be different looking. Anybody have a favorite animal? No? No one has a favorite animal. Okay, I'll mess up your head. I'll say python. And then when I'm done, if it were to assign it, tell me what it is after you hopefully modified the second one. One element in the animals list that had the index 2. Right, there you go. I'm saying Python, yes, lists can have repeating things in it. I can have 7 zebras in there. But this Python is not this Python, because this one is capitalized. Now, when you say capitalized, that means what most people, they mess it up. I'll tell you what it means. It means like in English, person, place, or thing. New York City. Only the first letter of each word is capitalized. Now, most names are that way too. No, not all names. Like me, Edward Bujek, capital E, capital B. That's called capitalized. So it's not all the letters are uppercase, just the first letters of each word. That's not all true with all languages. With all things. But Eiffel Tower, capital E, capital T. So this Python that's highlighted is what's called capitalized. It's not the same as this Python. And yes, you can do the length of it. And it hopefully will be 4. Oh, the len of whatever the variable is. Animals. And I'll stop right now to be conscientious of your thing. Is there any questions especially if I'm moving too slow or too fast, I guess. So there's truckloads of operation you're going to be able to do on the data type. The important thing to know is what the data type is. You can't do string operations on a list. You can't do list operations on an integer, that kind of stuff. So it's like, what can I do with lists? Lots of things. What can I do with strings? So, we looked at len, and if we can do the length of almost anything. Well, there are infinite amount of functions you can do. Each data type has its set of functions. Okay? So, any questions, guys? Because we'll start.
Yeah, okay. Quick question that if you want to play around with this one for the practice reason, can we just download the Jupyter and do this?
Yes.
Or do we have to download something else too?
So I'll take that. I don't want to make this recording too long, but we'll just hang out. I'll stop the recording. So right now I want to benefit. So hang out. We'll get rid of all the questions, and then we'll go offline. Well, off recording. Any other questions? So I'm going to pause the recording.